Freddie, what's it like now being an assistant coach here with the Seattle Sounders today?
Well, I got in yesterday, but today, great session. A player's dream, just a lot of little rondos and playing it, but the intensity, very good intensity. And it's obviously a beautiful day, so I think that adds to it. But no, it's nice. It's nice to be, new place, some new energy, get to kind of see things, trying to get used to some things. But I think it'll be a while before I can really know all the players and all of that. Obviously, I've seen them from afar, but start to learn a little bit of their demeanors and what they like and how to coach a player individually and how I can help the staff out.
What have your impressions been of this team from coaching Marcel?
Man, always a good energy. You just you feel a good energy, a team that for me personally, I just see a fight in them every single game. That every time you go in, you're going to have to give one of your best games to even compete. And I think that's the most important thing that you try to get from a team, and then you obviously see the quality of players that your Nico and you get Freddy Montero and you get Raul and all these players, just so many good players throughout the roster that it's very competitive. They can put out a different lineup and still be competitive. And you've seen it in Austin and in Dallas, that you're starting to see the young player come through as well. So it's a really competitive group. And for me, just the synergy that the group has.
What went into that process and the decision to split with RSL and then to come here? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, me being honest, is a new challenge. I'm not done developing as a coach. There's a whole lot more to learn. Brian, I've mentioned it a few times, is a guy that I feel, is a very high quality, mature coach. From afar, again, you see a team that's ran well, managed well, and when you're young as a coach, you feel like if you can just lead into a good session, that's going to win you games. That's not the case, and that's something that I've learned in the last 2 years and a half. Is it's a lot about managing and creating a culture, and from here you see a culture, a competitive culture, a winning culture, a club, which what we had at RSL as well, meaning you have your academy, you have your second team, you have your first team, starting to produce players as well. And so that was the biggest thing, is a challenge. And am I going to go somewhere where I can continue to learn? Because there's so much to learn. And sometimes you're at a place for a long time that you feel like you need maybe something else to continue to grow if you want to get to where you want to get.
Is there a specific thing that you're looking to really learn and pick up here, as opposed
to? I would say just the winning culture and managing of players, right? It's not a secret. Seattle brings in some very good players that are quality around the world, and I've had some players of caliber like Demir and Albert and those guys, but you get kind of in a comfort zone, and it's not that I was comfortable, but you want to hear maybe new challenges. You want to be in new challenges and see how it's done elsewhere. And it's players that are in a team that's been to championships, and that's always something that's very intriguing to people, and see what you can learn from that.
Besides the personnel, can you just talk about looking forward to your development of the tactical stuff, the X's and the O's of putting multi-talented players?
Me personally, how I can help the team?
Yeah, exactly. And just what this team has in terms of Brian's tactics.
Yeah, no, Brian, I mean, you've seen them just switch from a 4-2-3-1 that you've seen in the past years to this year, coming into a 3-5-2, where they're flexible. I think when they get some other players back, it allows them to be flexible and not just be stuck on one formation, which I think now a lot of teams in the league, you're starting to see some of the top teams, you can see them more from one weekend to another and still play it at a high level. I think this team is capable of that, and that's something that really intrigues me as well. You start seeing different formations, you got to think a little bit different. How do teams react to the way when you play a line of 5 to when you play a line of 4? All of that for me is really interesting, because I like that part of the game, and however I can help, that's what I'm here for.
Is there a maturity that comes with being able to have a discussion with players about changing their roles? I know you talked about continuing to grow. Is there a maturity level that comes with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an assistant for a long time, and I've been a head coach and the USL and MLS, so I think I know what I want from what I wanted from an assistant, and that's what I'm going to be to Brian. For me, I like being the quiet guy and off to the side and just work my tail off. But yeah, maturity comes, I think, with more games. Just like a player, The more games that you give that player, the more scenarios he's going to see. You see more scenarios, you continue to grow. That's your development, and I think as a coach, it's not any different. There's a coach, Tuca Ferretti, in Mexico that talks about, you until you've reached as a player 100+ games is when you're really starting to see maturity, and I think it's very similar to a coach as well, and every level changes.
You touched on the culture, and I don't know if it's something that is different around the league with the Sounders or what the perception is. And now you've only had a couple minutes of taste of it. What are your thoughts on that, on all of that, and how you'll kind of blend in with that?
Just very positive and competitive. Positive and competitive. So I saw the guys, a lot of smiles today as they walked out and they're on the field, but the intensity of the session showed we love what we do. It's enjoyable, but I want to win the 5v5. And so I went to the Tacoma game last night, very similar, right? Even with not a big crowd on a Thursday night, they're looking to win. They're fighting till the very end. So that for me that's the obvious that you see, that it's just everyone wants to win, and I hope I can in any way help to continue that.
You're all in.
Yeah.
You started as an academy coach at
Yeah.
RSL. What are your impressions coming from the outside of the youth development setup here? And is that something maybe like helping with that could be part of your role? Do you see that as a strong suit of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend that was actually with me at the academy, Henry Bronner, who works with the academy and all that. So I'm very familiar with what they've been doing here. So I mean, for me, it's any way I can help. When yesterday I watched 20 minutes of an academy game here. The U17s playing a 19 team. Then got down to Tacoma and watched a little bit. I love that part of the game. I love seeing a player from 14, 15 years old, and then when you somewhat help them a little bit in any way to get to a high level, that's a big part. It's an exciting part. I think those are friendships you earn when you're part of someone's development. But I love that within the club, that it's now starting to see. I saw what they were actually, like a Leyva kid, there was discussion a while back, and from him being in Vegas, and we would go over there and try to recruit as well. And then to see him last night, he changed the game kind of when he came in, and then you see him in games in MLS, you're like, they haven't maybe been like the talk of Dallas or some of those that are traditionally, but it takes a while. The project was started a few years back, and you're now starting to see that, and you're going to see in the next 2 or 3 years even more of a come up, and that's the beauty of the club. I think they're not only competitive, and we bring in some very high quality players, but also that they can be developed from within.
Freddy, bienvenido a Seattle.
Gracias.
¿Pudieras decir cómo se dio tu llegada a Seattle? Y también dices que tienes un día que llegaste. ¿Qué es lo que más te ha impresionado del club?
Sí, no, le llamaron a mi club si estaría interesado de hablar o si pueden agarrar permiso de hablar, y cuando hablaron me querían saber si quería hacer una entrevista, si estaba interesado, y para mí claro que estaba interesado. Es un club muy grande de la liga, uno de los más grandes, yo creo que anda creciendo en todo en América, y eso era un club muy importante que claro iba a escuchar. Y así se fue. Rápidamente tuve conversación con Brian, tuve conversación con la gente de arriba, Garth y el dueño, y rápidamente después de las pláticas supe que era un lugar que quería estar. Y luego, como dije hoy, muy positivo el grupo, que rápidamente se ve, es muy notable, y igual como la gente es muy positiva, pero no positiva en generic, por ejemplo, es optimística y quiere trabajar y tiene una sonrisa en su trabajo, que para mí es muy importante.
Freddie talked about your connection and relationship with Brian, with Henry. I'd love to get your thoughts on your connection with guys like Craig Weibel and Garth Lagerwey from your time out there, and your relationship with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, Garth has always been very professional. I really never really worked with him, and so when I was in Arizona, that's where the academy was at that point in time. He was with the first team. Obviously, there was conversations, and then he promoted me. And he left, so I never really directly got to work with Garth. Just from afar, was always very professional, very respectful. And then Craig took over that year as Garth left, and yeah, I wasn't the head coach at the time, but there was always discussion with scouting and academy, and he was always someone very respectful, and I think I reciprocated that to him. So the relationship has always been very professional and friendly. So, when they come calling, you understand that you've worked with these people before, and it's been very professional, and you know what they want from you, and so I think it does make sometimes decisions a little bit easier.
And what were those conversations like when Garth and Craig and Brian come calling? Or or did you reach out? What was the situation?
You know, I mean, with Brian, it's never been like a very close, but I've reached out to him in the past to ask for advice on, like when I got the job. You know, there was always some text exchanges, or during the offseason, this past offseason, I contacted him about managing players and you know, scenarios, and it was someone that, again, from afar, you see what you're looking at a team, and you listen to interviews, and you're like, well, this, you know, he's well spoken, he speaks very highly in after games and all that. So it was just somebody for me that was easy to reach out to, and he always gave me the time. So it wasn't a friendship from a long time ago, even though I played against his teams when I was in the USL back or A-League in the days. But it was just very comfortable for me to have conversations with him.
Freddie, I have kind of a random question for you, but reading up on your background a little bit, it said you were from New Mexico originally. Yep. That caught my eye because I'm from Santa Fe, actually.
Okay.
So I was wondering if you could give just the brief nutshell of your connection to the state. It said that you coached a team down there in the off season or something. Did you get your start?
Yeah, so I'm from there. My brother was a coach. He coached me. So when I would go play USL in the off season, I'd always coach Strikers. FC was a competitive club out of Las Cruces, New Mexico. So it's south, I think 4 hours south of you. But we were always competitive. We had some good players come about from that area. Edgar Castillo was one of them that ended up playing for Mexico in the U.S. And I think he's in Cincinnati now. But Aaron Herrera that I had at RSL came out of there. Christian, as a matter of fact, that's a Tacoma goalkeeper. He's also, I coached him since he was 12, so I was always part of some development there that I love. We always had some pretty competitive teams, and in New Mexico, you have to leave the state to compete. So we were always, you know, going into California. You can't get better competition than that. Going to the Disney Showcase, but that was always trying to form a good team that we can develop players to get off to college or hopefully pro. But that's kind of how I started.
Sorry. ¿Qué tan importante es tener en el cuerpo técnico a alguien que habla español para poder comunicar o integrar a los jugadores que hablan español?
Yo creo que es importante no solamente español, si uno puede hablar portugués o francés, ayuda muchísimo. Yo creo que la persona humano se siente un poquito más cómodo, más de principio cuando apenas llega a un país. Pero yo cuando puedo les hablo inglés, pero si necesito que explicarle algo que no pueden entender, rápidamente lo puedo cambiar a español. Pero siempre ha sido muy importante. Yo como coach que me vengo de RSL, los asistentes que tenían también podían hablar español, que cuando tácticamente para no repetir algo, yo puedo explicar algo y uno explicarles en otro lenguaje y ya el ejercicio todo sale más rápido. Mejor de explicar a un grupo y explicar otra vez en otro lenguaje, alguien lo puede hacer, pero es importantísimo.
Any other questions?
Freddie, going back to the bilingualism, how important is it now for an MLS team to have somebody in their coaching staff that is fully fluent in what are basically the 2 languages of American soccer?
Yeah, it's great. Same question with him. It's valuable. It's valuable. I wish I knew more Portuguese or French. I think those are also very valuable languages here, and especially got here today. And there's some players that speak French, and then there's some players that speak Portuguese. Portuguese, I think I can get away with it with just Spanish, but it's important. Like I was just explaining to the gentleman, it's there's times as you explain it in English to the core, and then you have to repeat again in Spanish. So when you have that other person that can translate at the same time as you are, it's so much more better with the timing and the flow of the training session. And also when I think especially when someone just gets to the country, they always feel just a little bit more comfortable when you can speak to them in their native language, and it's important. I think you always get the best out of a player when they feel comfortable and they feel at home. So I think it's important all over the country if you can have on a team and have people that can go with different languages. I think it's huge.